Welcome, everybody, to the regular meeting of the City Planning Commission. Today is Monday, December 4th. My name is Alyssa Olson. I'm the president of the Planning Commission. The city will be recording and posting this meeting to the city's website and YouTube channel as a means of increasing public access and transparency. This meeting is public and subject to the Minnesota Open Meeting Law. At this time, I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Alper.
Present.
Baxley.
Here.
Campbell.
Here.
Conley.
Here.
Emmerich is absent. Ford.
Here.
Koski.
Present.
Marwa is absent. Meyer.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
We have 8 members present.
All right, we have a quorum. So with that, we'll proceed to the agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's legislative information management system, which is available at lims.minneapolismn.gov. We'll begin with acceptance of the minutes from November 13th. Could I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. Our next order of business is to organize the agenda, which is, again, available at lims.minneapolismn.gov, and there are copies by the clerk. I'll read through the agenda numbers and addresses and state whether they are slated for consent or discussion. I'll also briefly explain what those are. So consent items will be passed without discussion by the board and will be adhering to the staff recommendation. So if you agree with the staff recommendation when I read that item number off, you don't need to do anything. If you disagree with the staff recommendation and would like to speak on an item, when I call out that item, you can just raise your hand and let me know, and we will put that item on our discussion agenda. So with that, we have the following items on our agenda for this evening. Item number 4 is 465 Girard Terrace, also known as Humboldt Avenue North, 560 Humboldt Avenue North. This item is on our consent agenda and will not have a public hearing. Item number 5 is 1828, 1832, 1828, 1832, and 1838 DuPont Avenue North. Staff is recommending this item for discussion, so we will discuss item 5. Item number 6 is 2300 15th Avenue South. Staff is recommending this item for consent. Is there anyone here to speak against staff recommendation for item number 6? All right, seeing none, we'll put item 6 on our consent agenda. Item 7 is 2415 Emerson Avenue South. Staff is recommending this item for consent. Is there anyone here to speak against staff recommendation for item 7? All right, we'll put item 7 on our discussion agenda. And item number 8 is 102 East Lake Street. Staff is recommending this item for consent. Is there anyone here to speak against staff recommendation for item 8? All right, seeing none, we'll put item 8 on our consent. And then item number 9 is 1860 28th Street East, 2717 Longfellow Ave, and 1901 26th Street East, also known as the Hiawatha Maintenance Facility. Staff is recommending this item be returned as it was withdrawn by the applicant, so that would go on our consent agenda. All right, so we have items 4, 6, 8, and 9 on consent, and we will discuss items 5 and 7. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes and the agenda has been approved. So we'll proceed to handle the consent agenda. In this order, first we will vote on consent items on the agenda that don't have a public hearing, and after we've dealt with that item, we can proceed to our public hearing consent items. Could I have a motion to adopt item 4 on consent?
So moved. Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes, and we'll move on to the rest of our consent items, which are 6, 8, and 9. And I will open the public hearing for those 3 items. So if there's anyone here who would like to speak on items 6, 8, or 9, you can come to the podium now, state your name and neighborhood for the record, and proceed with your comments. All right, I'm not seeing anyone, so I will close the public hearing on the consent agenda. Commissioners, can I have a motion to adopt items 6, 8, and 9 as recommended by staff?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. So if you were here for items 4, 6, 8, or 9, those items are complete. And next, we will move on to our discussion items. So we'll move on to item number 5, 1828 through 1838 DuPont Avenue North, and staff is Hillary Dvorak.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Oops, I'm not supposed to touch that, and I just did. It's been a while, sorry. This is an application for a 43 space surface parking lot located at the properties of 1828, 32, and 38 DuPont Avenue North. The applicants are proposing to construct a 43 space surface parking lot and that will serve the commercial tenants in the building located at 927 West Broadway. On the image above you in the site plan, the 927 building is sitting right here for proximity purposes. It is on the corner of DuPont and West Broadway Avenue. All 3 of the properties are zoned UN2 Urban Neighborhood District. The properties located at 1832 and 38, the 2 northernmost properties, so approximately the top 2/3 of these, were rezoned last September by the Planning Commission and City Council to add the transitional parking overlay. To create a parking lot and have continuous zoning, we need to add the transitional parking to that 3rd lot, or the southern lot, 1828 DuPont Avenue North. So that is the rezoning application. The parking lots in the TP are subject to specific standards. They are seeking a variance to the width, the maximum width of a parking lot in the TP overlay. They are also seeking a variance to the maximum lot size from 18,000 to 20,800, and site plan review is also related. As I had mentioned, this parking lot, or a smaller version of this parking lot, a 26 space surface parking lot, was approved on consent last September of 22 by the Planning Commission and went on to full City Council for adoption of the rezoning applications that were needed at that time. In September of this year, they were granted exclusive development rights to the 1828 DuPont, the new lot that is being added to the parking lot since the last time all of you or most of you saw it, to construct a 43 space surface parking lot, and that is to foster the commercial vitality of that building on West Broadway, keep the commercial tenants in there and the commercial activity alive on the street. So because of the additional lot being added, we are here tonight for the applications that I mentioned before. We are recommending approval of all applications tonight. For the rezoning, staff finds that the proposed rezoning is consistent with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. Rezoning the site to add the TP overlay will allow the applicant to combine the property with the properties located at 1832 and 38 DuPont and construct the proposed surface parking lot. The parking lot is needed to ensure the continued use of the commercial property that it serves. Providing surface parking will ensure the continued vitality of the commercial building located along West Broadway, which is a designated goods and services corridor. The conditional use permit, the parking lot will improve the functionality of the public alley, as the proposed surface parking lot will be completely separated from the public alley, as it currently is not, because that northernmost lot is currently used for surface parking. In addition, the surface parking lot will be gated off at night to prohibit parking during the overnight hours. The perimeter of the parking lot, as you can see, is landscaped, and stormwater management best management practices are incorporated into the design. It will be enclosed with fencing. There's a small plaza located at the north west corner of the parking lot that will be open to the public and activate the space. For the two variances that are needed, the variance for the no more than 75 feet wide, this is specific to the transitional parking overlay district, so parking lots in that are seeking the TP overlay are subject to that maximum width. In this case, the parking lot is designed at 117 feet, and that is from curb to curb, not property line to property line, because there is landscape buffers. The parking lot is designed in a manner that includes the plaza and stormwater infiltration between the parking lot and the street. And note, there are no parking spaces along the street itself, as you can see by the site plan. The width of the lot is somewhat dictated by the size of the stormwater infiltration basin that is needed for stormwater management, which is a requirement of Public Works. For the variance to increase the maximum lot size from 18,000 to 20,800, the average depth of lots in Minneapolis is 125 feet. These three lots, which are originally platted lots, are all 155 feet. If they were of the average lot depth, they would not need this variance. And then for site plan review, they actually meet all of the standards of site plan review. They're not seeking any alternative compliance. I will stand for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Hillary. Commissioners, questions for staff? I have a question. So you said that previously this came through the commission, and as part of the building, there was the northern part of the parking lot was approved at that point, and now we're just doing an expansion of that?
That is correct.
Okay.
Back in September of '22, we took in and the applications are listed in that table for the ones that were required back in September based on the two lots at the time. And a lot of, I should have pointed out, and I neglected to say this in my presentation, even though it was highlighted, is that there are a lot of applications that you all approved last September that are still valid and will remain valid. The intent and part of the exclusive development rights from council is that they have this constructed by the end of end of 2024, which is hard to say, at the end of 24. And so those are still valid, but that 26 space surface parking lot ended, somewhere in this location. So it had.
Okay. It would have been.
So yes, this is adding a third platted lot to the two platted lot parking lot that was approved.
Okay. And when we voted to recommend denial of the land sale in, I don't know, was that this summer or something?
That was this summer, I believe.
This summer, was that was part of the, what you just said about the council allowing them to develop exclusive development?
Right, so
Okay.
back in 2018, that is when the city RFP'd we RFP'd 927 and 1001 Broadway, which are two standing buildings, and as part of that RFP'd these three lots. The city granted them exclusive development rights in August of 18, and then in December, the land sale for 927 and 1832 and 1838 went through. In September of 22, then the land use applications for the two lots in the parking lot were approved by the Planning Commission. Then fast forward to September of this year of 23, the city council granted exclusive development rights to the property located at 1828 to the applicant to construct a larger parking lot. So instead of the originally approved 24 space surface parking lot. So the council has granted them rights to build this parking lot on these three lots. That the development rights has to go through, then the development project comes in, and then the land sale process will kick off next. So that is the next step in this process of land sale.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Commissioner Meyer?
Thank you. Can you go through the practical difficulties that you're recommending for the width variance? And if you can say what the default ordinance would be as well.
Chair Olson, Commissioner Meyer, I'm not sure what you mean by default ordinance.
Oh, like
you
if
could
we were to deny this variance, what would be the resulting outcome? Like what does the existing ordinance require, and how would that differ from the recommendation?
If you were to deny the variances, the parking lot cannot be more than 75 feet wide. So that would allow them to have 2 rows of parking in a drive aisle, essentially, because you couldn't fit another row of parking in that 75 feet, because parking spaces are 18, 18, and then 22 for the drive aisle. So if you denied the variance for 75 feet, they would not be able to construct this parking lot. They would only be able to construct the 26-space surface parking lot.
That's what it would be. It would be 26.
Well, I'm not exactly sure, because that was based on an old plan, but that's how many were in the previous parking lot design.
Okay. So like looking at this image, like I can imagine like the bottom row, the southernmost row of 10 spots not being allowed, but you think the
I
top
don't
one would
think-
not be permitted as well?
No, because I don't have a calculator, but 18 times 3 plus 44 for the 2 drive aisles. Even if you eliminated this, you're over 75 feet in width.
So can you give us some background on that 75-foot requirement? Like when was that requirement passed? What was the intent behind it?
I believe that the 75-foot width maximum came in with the 99 code with the transitional parking overlay. Well, it was part of the 63 code, I believe, and then when it came into the 99 code, unless Kimberly knows any different, I believe that's when the 75-foot width came in was a 99.
So was that the one passed in 2021, or is that 2009?
Well, I think it was part of the code adoption in 1999,
In 1990. Sorry, okay.
and possibly previous to that. I'm not sure when the TP overlay came into existence, but it was in the 99 code.
Okay, and so what was the general goal of the width restriction?
I think just minimizing the width of parking lots in residential areas.
And then lastly, what is the practical difficulty that you recommend?
In this case, just the way that the parking lot was designed is that they have not, they kept all of the parking 40 feet back from the front property line so as to not be in the front yard of the houses to the south of it. And so to accommodate stormwater management on this site and to maintain that front yard setback along DuPont for the homes, because it is homes south of these 3 vacant lots, and there's homes south of their residential properties, to maintain this as more front yard and green space, the parking lot got wider, if you will, instead of deeper. So instead of having parking spaces up in here, which would have needed variances because of the front yard, but they chose not to design it to have parking spaces in the front yard. They chose to put the green space and the plaza up along the street as amenities for those who live and work in the area, and then keep the parking at the back of the lot. So to accommodate that stormwater pond, which there's, for certain, and I'm not a stormwater engineer, but to accommodate the right size of basin that's needed for the amount of stormwater running off, this is the size stormwater basin that is needed. So for those reasons, we recommended approval of the variance.
But if the variance were denied, there would be even more space available for stormwater treatment, right?
That would be correct.
Okay.
I don't know if I can't guarantee that they would build additional stormwater if it wasn't needed, but
Okay, and then I have a procedural question about how previous actions were communicated to the council. So in August, the Planning Commission voted against the land sale.
you made a finding that it was not consistent
consistent.
with, and that message was carried forward to the full city council.
Okay, and that was my question. In what way was it communicated to the?
It was in the staff report. I did go back and reread the staff reports from the land sale, and it was noted that the planning commission did not find consistency, but that was a recommendation. The council chose to support the applications because they have supported the 927 West Broadway project, which includes this parking lot to support those businesses that are in that building. So the council is, I think, in my opinion, looking at this as a package. The parking and the development itself are together.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff before we continue with our public hearing? I'm not seeing any. Thank you, Hillary.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to our public hearing for this item. For the public hearing, everyone will have 2 minutes to speak, except for the applicant. And once your time is up, I would rather not cut you off, so make sure your comments are within that 2-minute time period. You can check on the clock right there. And, all right, let's get into it. So I'll open the public hearing. If anyone would like to come to the podium, you can state your name and neighborhood for the record and proceed with your comments. Oh, I guess I need to ask if the applicant is here and would like to speak first. Is there an applicant here who would like to speak on this item?
No, I'm David Witt.
Oh, go to the microphone just so we can hear you.
Yes, David Witt with Mobilize Design Architecture. We're the architects in the project. I don't have anything to add. I think Hillary's done an excellent job of presenting it, but we're available for questions.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing for this item. Commissioners, is there any discussion, or would anyone like to make a motion?
Madam President, I'll move that we adopt the staff report.
Okay, hold on. We had some people who I think want to discuss, so,
Well, I'll make the motion anyway.
okay. Is there a second?
She did.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. So we have a motion on the table to adopt staff findings, and now we can discuss. So, Commissioner Alper?
Yeah, I guess I'm surprised to see this project come back, most notably, really that our recommendation of a denial is coming back for that land sale that was seen, and that the way in which it was supported for practical difficulties, to me, seems to be really reaching for straws to find consistency with the comprehensive plan. So for those reasons, I'm not going to be supporting this motion tonight.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Meyer?
I also will not be supporting this motion today for the same reasons that that we found that the land sale this summer was not consistent with the 2040 plan. I believe this the application before us today is mostly not compatible with the 2040 plan either. It's really close to high quality public transit and goes against several of the 2040 plan goals. I think it's a major shift to go from transit-oriented density to a surface parking lot so close to high-frequency transit stations. Looking at the staff report that was put forward, I'm trying to pull it up here, but it's several paragraphs down that it says anything about the Planning Commission, and it was put on consent at the Biz Committee. I don't think there was any discussion about it. I feel like in the future I would ask staff to communicate the Planning Commission's positions to the council in a way that they'll be seen better. I think it was very odd that was just put on consent. If it had been discussed, if there was an active decision by the council to shift this dramatically, then I would say that the Planning Commission is subordinate to the council. But I don't really feel that it's clear that the council has really considered this change. And I'm not persuaded by the practical difficulty. I think if we were to deny the variance and stay within the parameters of the original ordinance, which is intended to restrict the width of the parking lots, that they can still build a parking lot. It'll be smaller, but it would have even more room for things like stormwater treatment. I don't have any particular objection to the lot size, so I wouldn't object to that part, but I do object to the width recommendation, so I'll be voting against that, and depending on the outcome of this motion, we'll make an alternative one if it does not pass.
Commissioner Bexley?
Thank you. I'm tending to agree with my fellow commissioner, but maybe Hillary, there's a piece here that we're not understanding. You had mentioned the tie to this that perhaps was discussed at council level in terms of an overall development that this was critical to. If you could sort of describe.
Yep, so the city owned 1001 and 927 West Broadway. They're right across the street on the corners of DuPont. The city sold 927 to, and Maya is with the Phillips Foundation is here and can probably speak to the history, and I'm gonna maybe get some ownerships wrong because things have changed since I first got involved in the project. But 927 was a vacant and boarded building on West Broadway that the city RFP'd, wanted investment put into it. As part of that project, these 3 lots were here for parking or other development that would also support what was happening in the 2 buildings. 1001 is, I think, in limbo. I don't know what's happening with 1001, but 927 received money from the city and from the county, I believe, for rehabilitation and an addition. There's also a solar array that I did not talk about as part of this application that's received funding that we'll go over these for. And so the city and the county have money into the development, which is 927. Tri-Construction and Urban Homeworks are both in that building. They have employees who have construction vehicles that come and go. There's a possibility that parking's getting pulled off of Broadway. To keep these businesses in the building, the city council felt that it was important to have them have parking near their building. It is across the alley from the site, and so that is why that's why we're here again tonight, is the businesses in the building, with the fact of they're unsure of what's happening on Broadway, and the fact that they have employees that come and go. They can't get on a bus. They can't take all of their jackhammers on the bus and come to work every day. They need their construction vehicles. They need to be able to get to and from and come in for meetings and go back to job sites. That's why this parking lot is important for these businesses in this building. And that's the development that the city council supported. And that's why they overturned. They didn't overturn. Yours was a recommendation to them on whether it was consistent or not. They made their own opinion and judgment and said it is consistent with the comp plan because we're supporting commercial vitality on our goods and services corridors. So that is the difference in maybe what you're seeing as supporting comp plan. It's kind of it's a larger picture than just it's a surface parking lot. It's a surface parking lot that supports businesses on a corridor that has seen disinvestment over generations. And so to change that, here's the parking.
And Chair Olson, if I may add, I think I don't want the narrative to be that staff didn't communicate the Planning Commission's decision on this adequately to the City Council. I think the fact that this ended up on the consent agenda is a procedural issue with the way council committees conduct their business and does not mean that it wasn't communicated to them. Staff did have conversations with members of the Biz Committee specifically regarding the Planning Commission recommendation on this, and the City Council made their own determination related to comp plan consistency for the project as a whole. As Hillary noted, the alley separation is what makes this in the transitional parking overlay district and a principal parking lot. If there were no alley separation, it could be considered an accessory parking facility, which doesn't have a limit on the width in this zoning district. So it was communicated. The City Council made a different decision.
Commissioner Campbell and then Marwa.
So thank you, Hillary. I am inclined to vote for Commissioner Ford's motion for a couple of reasons. And I think when I look at this, I think to myself, what does this add to the neighborhood? And I think, generally speaking, we have been a board that has been opposed to the growth and expansion of surface parking lots in general. I look at the proposed project today and I see 3 things in particular that I think are good. The first is the stormwater runoff systems, I think, are a major benefit to the region, and the more that we can have those across our city, the better. The second, I think, is the deliberate attempt to try to make the space more inviting to neighbors with the west landscaping. And the third, and by far most important to me, is continued and ongoing investment in a neighborhood that needs it. And I think my personal position is that we as a city and as commissioners and others should be balancing, a very complicated code and, a variety of other complicated parts of moving projects like this forward with what is the outcome going to be for our communities. And I think in this particular case, I believe that the benefits outweigh the negatives, and therefore we'll vote for the motion.
Commissioner Marwa?
Yes, and I'm inclined to agree with Commissioner Campbell on a number of these things, but I'm just a little confused. Why did it go from 23 parking stalls to 43? If I'm reading this correctly, from what our initial 26?
It was, sorry, from 26 to 43.
Yeah,
Why or how?
like, yeah, I guess like how, is there another piece of land? Like, I guess where is this?
So,
what's
yeah, so the original parking lot was only located in 1832 and 38 DuPont. And that was the only two that had been granted the exclusive development rights. Then fast forward a year, it was with the transit on Broadway, which is a good thing, and, anyone's opinion. There's transit coming on Broadway, or if there is transit on Broadway and the parking comes off, the belief of the property owner and the businesses in there is, where will people be able to park when they're coming to and from the site? And I can, again, if you will allow Maya to come up, she can talk more through the operations of the business, but you have construction workers, project managers, designers who go to job sites and then come here. And so to get that additional parking, they added a third lot, which allowed an additional 2 rows of parking in that drive aisle, or an additional row of parking, in the drive aisle.
So that was a decision with the business owners that will locate there, that they needed more parking and they needed the additional lot. And then the city did a land sale for that lot to the Phillips Foundation. Okay, and that was because of the need that was very much expressed by those 3 businesses that were going in, that said this needed to be an additional lot with this additional parking.
Yes.
Correct? Is that the history of
Yes.
this? Maya, do you mind talking just a little bit about the project? I think it'd be helpful.
Greetings, everyone. Maya Beecham with the Jan Rose Phillips Family Foundation of Minnesota, and we're owners of 927 West Broadway. We used our resources to secure the building with the idea that we go in equity partnership with a Black-owned business, which is Tri Construction. The idea is that in over 10 years' time, they will become owners and we will pull out but remain tenants. Right now, this building and the parking lot represents access and opportunity, contributing to the economic vitality of the area. There's Phillips Family Foundation. We have offered our space up to community so they can have meetings, not only for our business, but then out other business, not necessarily connected with us, just being a space for community. You have Urban Homeworks across the hall from us on 3rd floor that provides housing for low-income communities. And so a lot of those individuals come to Urban Homework for different resources and opportunities. So it's been a vital resource and location for their constituents. And then on the 2nd floor, Tri Construction, they have 80% people of color that work for them in their businesses, and they have major projects that they work on in the city. So you have those individuals that are employees that need the parking spaces to be able to do business with Tri Construction. And then on the 1st floor, we have City of Minneapolis that'll be coming in soon. City of Minneapolis Promise Neighborhood, City of Minneapolis Office of Neighborhood Safety, which will be in partnership with CEO Change Equals Opportunity Violence Interrupter Group. So I'm just giving you a range of folks who will be occupying space in the building who see this as a great need. So that's in the building. outside of that, like I said, we have connections with community. So they need to be able to come meet with us, not only just to meet with us to access our opportunities, but see it as their space so that they can have business in the space, whether it's from education, economic development related work, or whatever the need may be. And in terms of the parking space, I understand the need of thinking about the environment, but also we need to have grace, I believe, in terms of access. A lot of our community, those who lived on the north side, may have been pushed out to Brooklyn Park, Eden Prairie, and they have to drive in for jobs and opportunities. So they may not always use the public transit. It may be easier for them to use the cars for the time being. So I'm just saying that to say I think maybe there needs to be a balance as we develop the West Broadway corridor and develop North Minneapolis as a whole in terms of transportation and just economic vitality in general. So that's what I'd like to add. I think Hillary did a good job already. I just want to emphasize some things.
All right. Is there any other discussion? Otherwise, we will ask the clerk to please call the roll. All right.
Restate the motion.
Yeah, so the motion is to adopt staff recommendation.
Commissioner Alper,
No.
Baxley,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Koski,
Aye.
Marwa,
Aye.
Meyer,
No.
Olson.
No.
That's 6 yeas and 3 nays.
All right, that motion passes. And that completes item number 5. And we will move on to item number 7, which is 2415 Emerson Avenue South, and staff is Aaron Hanauer.
All right. Chair and Commissioners, so the project site is near that intersection of Emerson Avenue and Hennepin Avenue. Fronts Hennepin Avenue, a goods and services corridor. To the north are those 2-story commercial buildings, and to the south are the 2 4-story charming brownstone residential buildings. The proposal for the subject site is the 6-story mixed-use building, 5,200 square feet of office on that second floor, 32 residential units on floors 3 through 6, and ground level lobby, enclosed parking and bike parking on that first floor. Brick on the ground floor and metal panel on the upper floors. And as you're likely aware and remember, this came to the Committee of the Whole meeting in September. The applicant did make modifications, heard that there was not support for variances. So they did reduce the building to comply with the setback requirements. And so the only application that they're applying for is site plan review. There's a couple comments, and I can get these in the public record that came in late at 4:20 this afternoon, and with concerns, I believe, from the residential buildings just to the south. They note, and maybe this is coming from the Committee of the Whole review, the variances. There is, again, no variances being applied for, and the new building is set back 11 feet from that southern property line. So it is taller, but it is in compliance with the zoning code requirements. There are 2 requests for alternate compliance, blank walls, and on that north elevation due to its proximity to the property line, and active functions, the request to reduce from 70% to 53% on the first floor. And CPED staff saw support for both of those requests. And staff is recommending approval of the site plan review application.
Thank you, Aaron. Any questions for staff? All right, I'm not seeing any. Thank you. So we'll move on to our public hearing. As I said before, everyone will have 2 minutes, except for the applicant. So I'll open the public hearing, and if the applicant would like to come forward and say anything, you can.
We'll speak after the residents. They'll probably have questions.
Okay, there for questions. All right, so if there's anyone else here who would like to come forward and speak on this item, you can come up to the podium, state your name and neighborhood for the record, and proceed with your comments. You'll have 2 minutes each.
Hi, I'm Jody Tracy. I live in Lowry Hill East. I live between on 25th between Emerson and DuPont. I'm concerned about the impact of having 32 additional units and the commercial space, specifically the cars in our neighborhood. Having only 6 parking spots doesn't seem like enough. Many of our residents park on the street, and the reality is that we need the parking near our houses in order to be able to access our cars, especially at night. Especially during the winter, when sometimes winter parking reduces our parking spots by half, since we can only park on one side of the street. Last year, we had a month where trash couldn't pick up where our trash couldn't be picked up because Emerson is too narrow for the trash truck to round the corner to get in our alley to get the trash out. And I just can't imagine how we can deal with that many more additional vehicles, given the fact that so many of us are already parking on the street. So I would like to hear how you plan to resolve that.
Hi, my name's Ella Rasp, and I live in 2417, the next door building. First off, just a quick early welcome to the new neighbors that'll live there soon. Just wanted to speak on the alternative compliance requested for the garage door. The city is investing millions in making Hennepin a safe and people-first street. And I think that allowing a dominant use of the frontage of this building to be a dead space and a garage access makes a significant impact on that investment. A major garage access, I think, is a safety challenge for this space, would create conflicts with the pedestrians and soon-to-be grade-separated bike riders. We already have the Valvoline garage doors, just two doors down, and it's really tough having people kind of coming in and out of those garage doors because they see door goes up, I go find a gap in the Hennepin traffic, and that's really what they're looking for. They're often not being as cognizant of people walking. Additionally, a lack of an active ground floor space makes it less pedestrian friendly and takes away eyes on the street, which we need for a safe pedestrian realm. We wouldn't, I don't think, allow a single family home built right now in Minneapolis to have a big garage door on a street like Hennepin that we're investing in the streetscape for. And finally, on the blank walls alternative compliance, if there's an opportunity to revisit the material choices to be brick, like all the other buildings next to it, I think it would really help those blank walls fit in with the neighborhood. Thank you.
Hello there, my name is Alexei Dickinson. I'm in 2421 Emerson Avenue South, one of the other two buildings of the Brookstones. My concern is not only echoing my neighbors with parking, but also with that street friendliness of cars coming out onto Hennepin. I have myself almost been run over twice by that Valvoline. When people come out of the Valvoline, they do just look for a gap and go. I have no doubt that this will be the same thing that will happen with this building, where the garage is located. On top of that, with the street parking, we do have challenges alone with that daycare being there, with those parents trying to find parking so they could drop off their children. This building will make it even more impossible for people who live on the street and people who utilize that area to find parking. Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is PJ Tracy. I live on the block right around the corner from the proposed site between 24th and 25th in Emerson. I would like to add to what other people have said by pointing out that this block is unique in that there are only 2 such blocks in the entire Lowry East neighborhood that are logistically set up this way. And if there is an increase in vehicle traffic due to this building, it will all be funneled down our block and down that short block on Emerson because there is no other way to logistically approach that area. So it will not only be a problem for parking in the winter, parking in the summer, parking because of the daycare across the street, but also a safety issue for folks like me. I'm severely visually impaired, and with the density in the neighborhood that has increased over the last several years, there has been a lot of migrant traffic through the neighborhood that has been flouting traffic laws, to say the least, like running through stop signs right on our corner. We have impressed Public Works to come out and do a safety assessment of the neighborhood to put speed bumps in, and they would not do it. And still there is this, increased traffic through the neighborhood over the last couple of years. And I fear that adding, 32 plus vehicles, which is a possibility with a mixed use building such as this, with units in the building as well, and only 6 parking spots within that building, that is going to increase the one-way traffic down that corridor, down our block and Emerson specifically, because there's no other way in to that spot where that building is. And that is going to make it extraordinarily dangerous for pedestrians such as myself and the numerous elderly who live in the neighborhood. So please take that under consideration. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Blake, and I am a resident of 2417 Emerson Avenue South. Full disclosure, my unit is actually on the north side that will be facing this building. I'm going to piggyback off of some of the comments from one of our neighbors, Ella Rasp. I do believe that even without the variances that they're requesting, that the creation of the depth backwards towards the property line dramatically reduces utility of all of our units. And though adding density is an initiative for Minneapolis 2040, I do think investment vehicles like this and this type of density are actually more detrimental to that project. Furthermore, there are some significant safety concerns because our buildings are extremely old. And even with development of the daycare or whatever else, there were complaints about cracks appearing in the buildings, and we are directly right next to it. And a lot of our residents are, newer owners, and there's some serious safety concerns. So, thank you for your time.
Hello, I'm Daniel Martelli. I live in 2417 Emerson Avenue South, so directly the right-facing neighbor of the proposed property. Overall, I support density, so I do welcome some new neighbors. I don't believe there's a legal recourse, but I do wish there was a way to diversify the types of units that they will be building. As I understand it, there's exclusively studios. It feels like I would like to see something that could support families being my neighbor as well, and not just usually young professionals, because those young professionals will become a family one day, and it's unfortunate they'll just have to leave because there's not family units available. So I want to put that out there. Also would appreciate some clarification. I previously thought that they were asking for variances where the setback was required to be 13 feet, but they were asking for 11 feet, and now it seems like the requirement changed to 11 feet. I'm just confused about that and would appreciate some clarification. I think that's it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Wallen. I'm the owner of a unit in 2421. And I feel it's hard to be a citizen or a resident of Minneapolis these days. It feels like we really have virtually no choice in things that are already decided. This is a wonderful community, these two buildings, I have to say. My son lives in the unit that I own. The sense of kind of the neighborhood sense, it's fantastic. And this feels like a kind of enormous interloper coming in. Certainly for people in 2417, it's going to damage their property values. I think that's safe to say. I think for a 0.16 acre, this is a lot of units. And with people who probably will be quite transient. I also know people living in a lot of the new construction in the nearby area. Almost everyone complains how substandard it is, how shoddy it is. You know, you can hear everyone. There's no noise, kind of, so they're just unhappy. They don't feel maintenance is good, and they're very expensive. This would be far more palatable if I felt like it was going to be affordable for someone. And to also tag off your comments, if it was large enough for families, single parents, or just the idea that we just are going to be populated by these single young professionals, it just is worrisome. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Lisa. I also live at 2417 Emerson Avenue South. As others have said, the garage door on Hennepin, as it's planned, is dangerous. Given this part of the neighborhood, we have multiple street front shops, businesses, we have an adjacent daycare, we have multiple bus stops on that intersection that all bring constant streams of pedestrians. And as previous neighbors said, this safety issue and truly a poor use of space would undermine the planned Hennepin reconstruction that I know a lot of us are really looking forward to for a more vital streetscape. And I also want to address significant concerns over the planned proximity to build to 2417. As I understand it, the height was just reduced by 5 feet to eliminate the need for a variance, but it's still a very big construction project. And our buildings are so old. They're 117-year-old brick buildings, and we put significant money as it is into inspections and yearly foundation repairs. And just kind of to emphasize how fragile our buildings can be, just over the past 2 years, we've had 2 separate sewer mainline collapses, and I know many people around the neighborhood have had to live through similar things, very expensive, very disruptive. Some of us have found a very intimidating example to reference a few blocks away in our neighborhood in 2018, where a similar older multifamily building was severely damaged and had to be emergently vacated because of vibrations that came from neighboring construction. And speaking as the vice president of our HOA, we've heard no communication whatsoever from the developers around these concerns or how to mitigate them, or really anything else. So I'm not really sure where the variance request stands, but I really highlight that as an opportunity to all of you to consider the context of the build and how to hopefully avoid future issues that we've seen in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Nicole. I live in Lowry Hill East on 25th Street between Emerson and DuPont. I would like to echo many of the concerns already raised here tonight, but primarily the issue of parking in our neighborhood. A 32-unit residential building potentially has 32 more cars. Emerson Street needs a real study done by the city to understand its safety. It is a dangerous street. Between 25th and Hennepin, it is a one-way. I witness cars at least 3 times a day going the wrong way, either the daycare or coming out of the parking lot behind the businesses like Renata and the Corner Balloon Store and Domino's Pizza. Despite our repeated requests for the city to remedy these safety concerns on Emerson, nothing has happened. A building at the end of Emerson is going to create a bottleneck every morning with parents dropping off their children at the daycare and every evening with them picking them up. These are small children crossing the street. As also expressed, I have almost been hit several times just crossing my own street. So I would really urge any additional inquiries into the safety concerns of Emerson Avenue and what a building at the end of it would do with traffic not adhering to the traffic laws and no oversight of that or no policing of that going on. I'd also like to express concern also over the building of this building. My building is also 110 years old. It's a brownstone, and it was harmed when there was construction a few years ago on the Jefferson School, now Ella Baker School. Cracks did appear in our building. So I would like to also understand any mitigation efforts that are in the works for that. I'd also like to echo maybe a redesign of the front to be more neighborhood-like looking. I'm very excited for the potential for more businesses, but I do want to also understand why a parking garage has not been included in these building plans. I think if you are going to rent, you would want that for your tenants. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Daniel Ehrlich. I live at 2417 Emerson as well, Lowry Hill East. I'd like to echo many of the things said already, and also highlight how out of character this proposed mixed-use space is for the area. Along Hennepin, we do have a lot of mixed-use, low-density space already in the form of single-story storefronts that occasionally have living space above that. This seems orders of magnitude above anything else we have in the neighborhood, and like others have said, I want to see more people moving into the area, and I would love to see higher density, but I think that it would be great for that to come in the form of not just single stall studios that are going to be vacated, they're going to be constantly turning over, and additionally, a garage door and a non-usable first floor doesn't draw anything to the neighborhood, and a small collection of second-story office space also doesn't feel like a community storefront space. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item?
I'd like to thank all my neighbors for being here and speaking much more eloquently than I will. The density is something to be addressed, but there's plenty of juice bar apartments that have been built all throughout our neighborhood that sit at probably 12% vacancy. $2,500 a month, nobody wants them. Let's build another one. Nah. Second of all, the inability to enforce the traffic laws is ridiculous. I've actually talked to a couple of buddies of mine who are contractors to try and get asphalt slumps put in my neighborhood to slow that traffic because the city is unable to do that. Parking of 6 spots, you've got to be kidding me. 6 spots for 32 units plus residential space on a street that already suffers. I'm disabled, I'm handicapped, and I was walking 9 city blocks because the city can not plow our streets and push us over to the other side. Above and beyond ridiculous, not even explainable. The addition or contribution to the neighborhood, which I heard many of you touch on when speaking earlier about these, love to know in what way this building would contribute positively in any factor, form, or method. Please do explain that. Aside from my opposition to this, I know everyone in the neighborhood, all my neighbors included, you're going to encounter some really fierce opposition to this. It's a horrible plan, it's a horrible project, it's god-awful and ugly, and that's a poor picture to pick. Shading those, what was it, quaint and charming brownstones? Beautiful, thanks guys.
Is there anyone else? You guys can line up if you want.
Hi, my name is Mariah O'Malley. I live also in one of the brownstones next door. I heard Commissioner Campbell reference I need to focus on the benefit to our communities on the previous project that was discussed tonight. And I don't want to mix words. This project will not benefit our Minneapolis communities, especially as we move forward toward a more pedestrian-friendly city. From the safety concerns about the garage door opening and closing on Hennepin, the driving concerns, the driveways that go on and off Hennepin, there is a lot of car traffic, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic. This will not support the neighborhood that already exists, and it is inevitable that this development will bring gentrification to a neighborhood through high-cost studio apartments and no variance to the types of units that exist there. This project will disrupt, displace, and harm families that live in the closest proximity to the development. alienating neighbors who could be allies to a development that actually supports our neighborhood. So please hear the people who you represent and support a project that will actually benefit our communities, one that does not increase the risk of safety to us as we walk around our own neighborhoods. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak on this item? I'm going to close the public hearing, and once I close it, no more. All right. I'm not seeing anyone, so I will close the public hearing for this item. Looks like we have quite a few commissioners who would like to say something, so why don't we go down the line? So Meyer, Alper, Conley, Ford. Oh, and Marwa.
Okay, so Aaron, can you go through what changes were made since this came to COW, like how they changed the project from what we saw originally in order to avoid the need for any variances?
Chair Olson, Commissioner Meyer, the big change is the reduction in height from 68 feet to under 64 feet. And that allowed the setback, especially the southern one, or the southern setback, to go from 13 feet to 11 feet. And now the new building is 11 feet from that southern property line. Okay. And that was the variance that they were looking at when it came to you in September.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll make a few more comments, and then I'll have another question for you in a little bit. But just to clarify for the public, the scope of what we're deciding here, it's very limited. There are no variances being requested here. People have made comments about the general density of the project, but that is not something really in the scope here because, it's a corridor 6 built form, and it's designated that because it's on Hennepin Avenue with a bus rapid transit line coming there. So the applicant did come to us and the committee of the whole and requested our support for a number of variances. We indicated at the time that we were not receptive to those, so we did limit it in that aspect, but most of what they're asking for tonight, they have the ability to do by right. The commission tonight does not have the authority to deny most of the things that they're asking for. They do need site plan review, so the alternative compliance within that is within our scope tonight. I wanted to say also generally, like I'm really empathetic to a lot of the comments that people made tonight, especially around like seeing more variation in multi-unit units, like especially adjacent to schools like this. This is something that I have previously proposed and would like to bring back to the commission at a future time. Back in, I think it was 2020, we had a proposal to incentivize more to 3-bedroom and family-oriented units near to the schools. And I think it is unfortunate that it's going to be just studios. But that's not something within our ability to act on tonight. But within the scope of the things that we can do, can you talk more about alternative compliance and if you can talk about the garage door, and is there anything that we can do to help reduce traffic conflict?
Thanks. Yeah, good points were brought up from public comments. The driveway, there's a driveway to the site right now. Unfortunately, there isn't a public alley that could help, that could bring more options of what could be done for vehicles to access the site. We definitely floated the idea to have no parking here, and that would, some people might not like that in the public, and some may like that. But we encouraged looking at going on to the back of the building. There is parking at the back of the building, at the back of the site right now, accessed from Hennepin Emerson Avenue. So this was we react to what the applicants, we encourage some things, but we also react to what applicants propose. They reduce they have a narrow-ish driveway to their 6-space parking garage. We're recommending a condition of approval that the glass doors be maintained, that they show in the renderings and the images to help add some transparency. It's not the greatest, but it is something. The reduction in active functions for this entire building is, again, it's a narrow site, it's a narrow building. There's also requirements for mechanical and other elements, so we did see some practical difficulties to fit everything in. So that reduction is going from 70% is the requirement to 53% is the request, or 52%. So it is a small request, and just with a challenging site to get parking, we saw enough there to support the request for alternative compliance with that recommended condition of approval.
Okay, thank you. Adding on to what you said in your statement, there's a tension between some of the things that members of the public brought up today, between trying to reduce the traffic volume and the number of conflicts versus having more parking. The city is no longer in the business of mandating more parking. In fact, we discourage more parking because it creates more conflicts, because it creates more traffic. Ideally, it'd be nice if they had no parking at all. We would encourage that, but we don't have the ability to prevent them from doing that. So they do have to have an entrance. If any of the commissioners have any proposal on how to modify the alternative compliance to help reduce conflict with traffic, I'd be receptive to that, but I don't have a proposal myself. So I will be supporting the staff recommendation.
Hi, Aaron, my questions are for you and for the applicant. Also, why is staff recommending alternative compliance for the blank wall variance?
For the blank wall variance? Along commercial corridors, along goods and services corridors, we often, the vision would be to have abutting building, and for a new development, if the property to the north gets redeveloped, that too would go to the property line to have those continuous storefronts. And there is no setback for this building, for this project on the north. So the applicant brought that building all the way to that north property line. Their request, and they do want windows on that elevation, but for the movements and their needs of having a wide enough building to be livable, they brought the building to the north property line. We understand the building code requirements of not allowing windows at along property lines when the building's there. So we are supporting this request for a blank wall, which is I think a common request when there is not a setback requirement and people are building to the property line.
All right, can I hear from the applicant then, I guess, on why you're basically doing this so then you don't have to put in visual interest on a wall that is going to be pretty glaring driving down Hennepin, a massive blank wall that everyone will see driving down Hennepin, breaking up what is a very beautiful historic block. I'll give the neighbors the code. So can I please hear from the applicant about this project plan?
Good evening. I wish we could have the old building that was 4 feet away from the north property line and was 11 feet away back then, but it was taller. So we had to meet your requests here and the committee of the whole. So to meet those requests, we had to reduce the width of the building to the bare minimum to include units, inhabitable units, and a corridor to face the north. And so the only interest that you see are the balconies that are open. So it's a basically open corridor behind the balconies and now we have just open, and in our mind, that's going to be better than a complete blank wall. We don't control the code, but the fire code is not permitting us to have openings over there, and that's just
You can't have windows on that north side either?
I can't have windows any on the white areas that you see outside of the opening. I'm not allowed to have any window, anything, any opening in any shape, and any fire code does not allow that. Yes, sir. Yes. No, except for the garage floor and the ground level, because then I'm. Yeah, it's all, which is why it's all my mechanicals and my stair shafts and so forth. So there's no units looking to the north, from that reason only.
But, you know, when we talk about blank wall and the reason behind these variances and all of the code that's in place, it's not just a window. You know that as an architect. It's not just, oh, it can only be windows. It can only be this. Like, there's so many other ways that you could add visual interest to this building, whether it's a community-oriented mural, whether it's a process of, you know, a green wall. We've seen a lot of these cool living walls now. Different kind of, you know, texture or whatever it is. Like, I think this is such a main part of our city when you're driving down Hennepin, for this to be such a giant swath of blank gray slate, you know. And I think that kind of shows that you're adding to a neighborhood, you're adding to a place, and this to me does not feel like there's been much work to make that feel like that. And I would also add to the fact that I feel for the neighbors about that, the driveway, I mean, or the drive out, this is a major corridor that people walk down. And the fact that we're also granting alternative compliance for a garage door without, like, I mean, I want it, you know, it should be like sirens coming out, cars coming, like something really loud, or however you're going to state it. I mean, I fully feel for the concern that we want active retail, right? Goods and service corridor. The purpose behind it is to have active retail. And in the middle of it, we're approving through your site plan a garage door for cars to be coming in and out of, which is the literal opposite of active retail corridors.
The building, the site width, with all respect, the site width is a very unique site width. It's less than 53 feet. Out of that, then there is an 11 feet variance that was requested to be respected last time that we were here. Out of that, we have the bare minimum driving aisle, which is existing there today. So by adding a garage door, we're adding safety, because that's going to make a noise and that's going to make an announcement, here is a car coming. So the safety issue with all, and I'm very empathetic to what all the neighbors said. I understand 100% everything that you said. I think that when you vote for density, you're asking for these things to happen. You live in the city. This is Hennepin Avenue. It's a very, very vibrant area. I was approached by Sky, one of the owners of Rimsayer, which is the building to the north, to potentially combine together for a project and collaborate and have a way bigger project, because we're going to have a way more FAR to play with. On a Corridor 6, you can imagine how much of effect, but I'm going to keep that for a meeting that we're going to hold with Sky and Rimsayer after this. Regardless to this, Commissioner Meyer, have stated all the right things that need to be said here. You asked us to comply. We did everything to meet. We're complying. We're asking for 0 variances.
You are asking for a lot of alternative compliance.
I'm asking for something that is trivial. The client today, the owner of the building today, owns a house, a drive-in aisle, and parking in the back. He wants to come to his business and park his car. That's the only reason why I have parking for 6 cars, for the 6 building owners or the people that are working there today. There is no requirements for parking, so we're in compliance. the building is complying with the blank wall because it's a zero lot line on the north, and if Rimsayer ever want to build their building and attach to it, they can. So the only thing that I need to worry is not to put the neighbor's building in compliance, which is completely respected by respecting the variances and complying with the code. I am not in charge on, the density and the parking requirements that the city already authorized to no have. This is, if there's any more issues that we can answer for that would be good. But basically, I've done, we came here to Committee of the Whole. You guys gave us some comments. We went back to the drawing board, we did them, and we're here in full compliance.
I think my third issue is that the bike parking, you have you've one bike stall for your commercial business spaces.
Yes, I do. I have a bike room in the back, and I have bike racks all over, each parking stall in the garage. And as for the improvement of Hennepin, as you guys know, there are many, many civil engineers in town that we can work with. We chose deliberately, we convinced our client to work with Kimley Horn, which is the landscape architect and civil engineer that was working on the renovations of Hennepin Avenue, so we can have all the perks and all the information that we need to make this as the best combination. He could have chosen any other consultant.
I'll pass it to Albert.
Chair Olson, if I may, before we move on, I just want to clarify because that we're using the correct terminology in our comments. There are no variances being requested. The blank wall issue is not a variance. You've told the neighbors that there are no variances. This is not a variance. It's a request for alternative compliance through site plan review, which is an administrative request that the Planning Commission has the authority to approve or deny, but it is not a variance.
Right.
If the Planning Commission feels strongly about the blank wall issue, just for efficiency's sake, a condition of approval could be added that encourages the applicant to work with staff to eliminate blank walls in excess of 25 feet. It doesn't have to be a window opening. It can be a material change, a recess, or a projection. The Planning Commission doesn't have to dictate what it needs to be through a condition of approval. You would just ask that they meet the 25-foot length requirement. And then on the overhead door, again, it's not the garage door that needs alternative compliance. It's active functions on the front of the building. So there's a 70% minimum for active functions. The garage entrance is not an active use, and so it's alternative compliance to active functions. So not necessarily for having an overhead door in this location. If the Planning Commission chooses to deny alternative compliance to active functions, there will be no parking on the ground floor of the building. Just the math doesn't work out. So just to clarify where we're at on alternative compliance.
Thank you, Hillary.
Thank you. One more.
Well, unless a commissioner has a question.
Okay.
Are you done with your questions, Commissioner? Okay, all right. We'll let you know if we have another question.
Okay.
And I don't have any questions for the applicant, so.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, I just want to say thanks to the neighbors for coming and sharing your concerns tonight. And I think we've heard these comments before, and I want to just remind the commission here that, people have a lot of traffic safety concerns, and I just would like to validate your concerns that you've brought forward and to say, we unfortunately have very little authority in that area, and so for that reason, I would like to ask staff if you could answer my questions and clarify the process for the public and for us as well on how it works today. What are the normal processes related to parking and transportation impacts for a project like this, or any project that comes before? Does Public Works review it? Do they do a study?
Yes, Commissioner Alper, and Chair Olson. Every project goes through preliminary development review, and that's where all the departments have, and mainly in Public Works, and it's a little light on the building code, that they have an opportunity to review the proposal to see if it conflicts with any of their standards. And this project at 32 units and 5,000 square feet of office didn't rise to the threshold of there was not a traffic demand management plan required, but
Oh, can I stop you just for a minute? Because I have a question about that. Who reviews the transportation demand management plans when a project does require one? Does Public Works, does a transportation practitioner review that, or is it?
Commissioner Alper, we have a traffic engineer on staff with Public Works who reviews all of the travel demand management plans who are required by the city.
Great. You can continue about the process. Sorry to cut you off.
I don't think I have anything else to add.
Okay, so I guess what I'm wondering is, so this preliminary development review happens, and so the face of the project, though, is for the case of this project, is you, right? Your email is publicly available, you're here at the podium.
Yes, correct.
Is the traffic engineer, let's say this required a travel demand management plan. Is that traffic engineer available to the general public or listed on the website that the public could connect with and get a response to their traffic concerns?
Planning staff serves as a liaison between the public and Public Works when it comes to those questions. In very extreme circumstances, we have had Public Works at a planning commission meeting. I think it's only happened once, but again, the comments that come out of preliminary development review are included as attachments to your staff reports. If there are concerns from Public Works, you will not be seeing the project because it means it's not ready to go. So the fact that it's in front of you means that Public Works has reviewed it and preliminarily approved it. Any conditions of approval from Public Works are typically going to be things like utility connections. If there were any concerns about curb cuts, parking, traffic, anything like that, it would need to be worked out before it comes in front of the Planning Commission. And then the planning staff serves as a liaison between any questions with that regard and Public Works.
So does the general public, do they know that this is the way things work? Like, is that clear on the website?
The general public knows if they have questions on the project, they can contact the planner who's listed on the staff report.
Okay, because I guess, this is something, this is like deja vu. I mean, we've seen this before on projects, I feel. And granted, this may be my last meeting. We'll see, but of the Planning Commission. But just to say that I don't think it's working. That's my opinion, and I would like to convey that to the rest of the commissioners here, that I think we should look a little more in depth at the process, and by we, I mean I hope you will all, whoever is returning in the new year, will continue that charge, just because I feel like we hear these concerns regularly, and it would be nice to have some sort of more direct avenue for people to express their traffic safety concerns that is not us, or to communicate it better to the public, or to have some sort of recourse that, that the instead of doing DIY speed bumps, that one of the public commenters suggested that there might be a fund within the city that neighbors could apply for, or that would have actual resources behind it that could be accessed, not like the current fund that we have now for neighborhood traffic concerns. So those are my main points. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I have a whole half a page here that talks about Public Works and traffic management, because I have concerns about that as well. Hennepin is going through a major redesign, and so I'm worried about that turn. In addition to the street, the streets are this big. Emerson, all the streets behind the street I'm looking at right now, Hennepin, are extraordinarily narrow. And to hear from people that they can't fit plows down there, and that people who are differently abled are walking 9 blocks to get to where they need to go, is completely unacceptable. So I wondered that, and maybe we do need a deep dive. Maybe it's something that this commission and Public Works, Traffic Management from city, and maybe even county sit down and have, and just learn more. We did that at the beginning of the year, I think, had some learning sessions. So perhaps that's something we could potentially think about. It feels good to know that by the time it reaches us, it's been vetted by Public Works, it's been vetted by Traffic Management. We wouldn't see it if there were issues. However, I'm thinking in my mind of driving around this community and knowing that this would be a difficult spot. My comments are just general comments. I don't have any questions other than a suggestion, and that is to the developer that you mentioned having that a meeting is coming up with building owners. I would absolutely probably recommend a community meeting with the residents who showed up tonight to learn more about the safety of their buildings with construction going on, what you might know about there that you could share. In addition to some of the reasonings behind why this building sticks out to me like a sore thumb, doesn't really blend in. Perhaps some of those unique concerns that we heard from residents. And this is something that I typically share all the time, is how did you engage residents about the project? How are you continuing to engage them before you even stick the shovel in the ground? So to me, that's just really important value of mine. And, you know, I don't have much to say about the blank wall. I realize that you're up against the rules there, and you came and you did what you had to do to be in compliance, and here we are. So those are the extent of my comments, but I would definitely recommend continuous engagement with residents and the neighbors directly next door, in addition to perhaps a way that in the new year, when new commissioners are appointed, et cetera, I may be back, I think, that we have some idea of ways in which traffic management goes out to look at some of these areas to come up with the decisions that they do. So thank you.
Commissioner Ford, you put yours down? Okay. Well then, okay. Commissioner Campbell?
Just wanted to use this opportunity to thank the folks here for an opportunity to hold me accountable for my statements, because I think you deserve them. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between the project we previously reviewed and this one. And I think what you've seen over the course of time at this body, not only directed by code and zoning changes within the 2040 plan, but just I think generally a philosophy of many of us up here is the deprioritization of parking, using buses and other means of travel to find your way around the city. I think my comments about balancing, you know, what we're being asked versus what the impacts are, in that case was we need to support minority business owners in part of our city that is in need of significant economic investment. And to me, keeping that parking lot there allowed those businesses to succeed, allows us to grow our economic base, et cetera. In this case, I want to talk just a little bit about the 2040 plan and why I support it and why I know that it's before us, which means it fits into whatever plan we're working with right now. But in general, the 2040 plan helps us build investments in transportation. It creates vibrant urban core. It provides a variety of different types of housing. In this case, we're talking studios. We've seen a variety of developers come to us in the last couple of months with a variety of different housing types, all which, in my opinion, help reduce our carbon footprint and keep our planet healthier for who knows how long, but a little bit longer. I think in the case that we're talking about right now, we're talking about densification. We're talking about taking a building that did not have the numbers of people in it and expanding that and bringing more people to our urban core, leveraging the existing structures in place like transportation and other means to help reduce our climate impact. That also has the benefit in a recent study of slowing inflation and actually stabilizing housing prices in Minneapolis, excuse me. So that is why I am a proponent of densification, because I do think it has long-term positive impacts for us as a community. That said, I agree with Commissioner Conley. I agree with Commissioner Marwa and a variety of different topics, primarily as it relates to visual interests of this building. This is the kind of building where you're going to drive down and you're going to be like, did Frank Gehry do that? And of course he didn't. And so it's going to raise a lot of eyebrows about what it looks like. Secondly, while we have our elected officials here who do have the power of the purse, I would recommend potentially investing more in traffic calming measures that our residents can apply for. So in this case, our residents of Emerson have traffic calming measures that make their community a little bit safer.
Thank you. Commissioner Baxley.
Well said, and I'll be short. I think this building will stand out, and therefore it has a responsibility, I think, to be executed really well. And I don't think you guys have done yourself the best service in terms of presenting these renderings, which actually express your intentions shown on other drawings in your package around those facade developments, which are actually treating those facades as canvases. There's a gradient that's being explored that ties darker materials, darker tones of those panels to the lower buildings and then becomes lighter. So I think your elevations do a much better job of conveying it than this rendering. And I think had the rendering sort of started to, right, it's got some on there, but it's, yeah, it's darker. So I think all I'm saying is that we've had a lot of great comments around how our city is changing here when we as designers and architects step forward with things that are going to look to the future. There is an expectation that they're executed extremely well, that these are not cheap, that the details are done well, that they're appreciated, even though they're different for what they are. So I think the facade exploration is a great step towards that, and I'd encourage you to show that in your renderings. I think you'd have an easier case. And I do appreciate the darker material, because one thing we do not require yet, we do shadow studies, but we don't do heat gain studies. And I think the other thing that we're going to be talking about at the city is, and we put bigger buildings that are highly reflective, especially south-facing, for our neighbors, and we use highly reflective materials, temperatures go up on their neighbors. So I think we have to be very careful about that material selection and be respectful of that as well. So that's all. Thanks.
All right. I'm not seeing any other comments. So I guess I will go ahead and make a motion to adopt staff recommendation for this item. All right. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Marwa?
Can I put a condition on the approval?
What is it?
To review the alternative compliance for the blank wall.
Sure. That, I will accept that friendly amendment if Commissioner Ford would.
I didn't hear it.
It was to add a condition of approval to take a second look at the blank wall with staff. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
And with the community. Can I just put with the community? No, it has to be with staff, right?
With staff.
With staff.
Okay.
I tried.
Is that appropriate, Kimberly?
So are we specifically asking the applicant to eliminate blank walls in excess of 25 feet? Or are we just directing them to work with staff? There's a distinction there in how much.
Can you tell me more about that distinction?
So if you are specifically asking them to eliminate the blank walls, then we would need the condition of approval to say that. So it would be eliminating blank walls in excess of 25 feet. Otherwise, just having the applicant work with staff on that elevation could result in a variety of outcomes that may not necessarily reflect the intent of your condition.
I'm going to ask my architect friend for a friendly suggestion.
The language eliminating blank walls, we can there's a definition of what blank means would be the way to position your.
The blank wall?
Yeah, because I think it allows a development and a chance to review what that actually is. But it's got more meat to it.
Okay.
And in the zoning code, that means it can be a recess, a projection, a material change, a
So-
window.
In this situation, when we're looking at a gradient of colors of the same material, that does not count.
A color change does not count. The planning commission can grant alternative compliance to allow for a color change. But the way the code reads, it's specific to material changes, recesses, or projections.
So the only thing, oh, go ahead.
But if gradient
can also mean textual change.
Correct.
There's a way to do that through texture change within the same system, I guess. So yes, yeah, we're saying the same.
Yep, so if we're just saying no blank walls in excess of 25 feet, I think Aaron can absolutely make sure that that is reflected on the final plans.
Okay.
Good.
So I will put that condition of no blank walls in excess of 25 feet.
Okay. So Commissioner Ford, you are okay with that? All right. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Alper.
Aye.
Baxley.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Conley.
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
Koski.
Aye.
Marwa.
Aye.
Meyer.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
That's 9 yeas and 0 nays.
All right, that motion passes, and that concludes our public hearing items for the evening. Are there any announcements from staff?
I just want to note, so typically the planning commission terms run through the end of January, but the commissioners who are sent to us from other bodies have slightly different terms. So I just want to say, Commissioner Alper, if this is your last meeting, thank you very much for your service and contributions on the planning commission. We look forward to working with whoever the park board sends next. And then our next meeting is not until January 8th, and we will work on adopting more calendar dates once the new council is sworn in. So it likely won't be until our second meeting in January that we have a calendar for the rest of 2024. So thank you for your patience on that.
Okay, thank you.
Be here either? Isn't this going under construction?
That's right, yep. So we mentioned that last time too, but our first couple of meetings in January are actually going to be in the public service building, which is where city staff is. Then we're going to transfer to the public service center, but don't worry, we will give you a lot of reminders. We will make sure you know where you're supposed to be. We're going to have staff posted at doors. So if you accidentally come to chambers, they'll send you to where you need to go. And we'll work with you. So we might end up in the wrong spot, but someone will be shepherding us all to the correct location.
That's the kind of support we need. All right, anything else from commissioners before we adjourn? If not, and without objection, I'll declare this meeting adjourned. Our next meeting will be January 8th, 2024. And the committee of the whole meeting this week has been canceled. Thank you, everybody.